Hey guys, Jesse Lavelle here, and thank you for watching my channel. Today what I'm going to talk about are the differences that I've noticed from switching from strictly using aps-c sensors to more recently I went and got a full frame camera. I did put out one video that was more of like an initial thoughts more than anything, since the RP was really new to me at that point. I'd used the M50 a lot for a long time, but full frame was still pretty new to me. I hadn't even tried all the features that the camera had to offer. So what we're going to do today is we're going to discuss the differences that I've noticed after having used those for some time now. So one of the main big differences that I really noticed after having owned the RP for a couple of months now, and I have everything accessible to me, is one of the things that really sticks out in my mind is that I just don't pick up my M50 that much anymore. One of the things that was in my mind when I first got the RP was, I am still going to hold on to my M50. Obviously it's going to produce a little noisier images. It's not going to have as good of low light capability. But the truth is, if you have controlled lighting environment and you have any type of good lighting, the M50 is going to really make people question why they've spent the extra money on a full frame sensor when they see a comparison. Because in the right lighting, it pulls off just as good of a picture, really, as far as I'm concerned. Now, you have to remember, I'm not a professional. I'm just an amateur photographer that got into this a couple of years ago. So it's coming from my eyes, not a professional. Maybe it doesn't produce technically as good of a picture, but to me, you really will be hard-pressed to see any type of a difference from the M50 and the RP when lighting is good. That being said, there is like this massive difference, and you know this from the video that I made previously. The high ISO performance of the RP or a full frame is just so much different that it can't be understated. I mean, one of the reasons that I did hold on to my M50, and this is my girlfriend's M50 with her little rubber thing on it, the M50, my M50 is recording us right now. But one of the biggest differences with the high ISO is it really starts to affect a lot of different aspects of photography. So not only like am I gonna use my RP when I'm shooting videos, because a lot of times I'm shooting videos in lower light environments, but also I do a lot of birding, and that's where my action or sports photography kind of comes from, is when I'm out shooting birds. And at first I thought I would use my M50 when I was going to go out and shoot action, because it's got such a higher burst rate, and the RP it's not that good. It's 5 without servo, 4 with servo. I would never shoot action without servo. So basically, effectively, you get 4 frames a second versus the 10 that you get out of the M50. Problem with that is even though I can shoot at a higher burst rate, and that's good, and I do wish that my RP shot at higher burst rates, because obviously that is a disadvantage. I'm not saying that it isn't. What I'm saying is the higher ISO performance is going to outweigh, at least for me, when I'm thinking about shooting sports, because when I was shooting birds all the time with my M50, most of the time I'm in my brain, I don't want to be like this, but for some reason in my brain, I'm trying to figure out ways to slow my shutter speed down so that my ISO isn't getting kicked up so high, because the noise is just always prevalent in my bird pictures a lot of the times. I mean, I use a Tamron lens that goes to 6.3, so that's not the best thing in the world either. But the difference is when I'm shooting full frame, because of that higher ISO performance, I don't have to worry about those things. So now I can bring my shutter speed up to 1/4000th of a second. And even though my ISO might get cranked to 3200 or 6400, it doesn't really matter, because maybe a little tiny bit of noise, and I mean the tiniest bit of noise, especially in comparison to using the aps-c sensor, I can just go into post and use a small amount of noise reduction, and my picture is going to be fine, even at those really high ISOs with really high shutter speeds, where I couldn't pull that stuff off with my M50, with the same exact gear, same exact lenses. So I didn't expect that. I thought that my M50 was going to still be a big player for me when I want to go out and do things like that, and it turns out that that high ISO performance ended up making that gear just come into my sports photography. Again, I'm pretty much using the RP exclusively for any video work that I'm gonna do. One of the cool things I wanted to talk about with the RP is the built-in focus stacking ability that comes with it. I finally got a chance to test it out. I have the RF 35mm, and I took my chessboard and I stacked 55 images, and I'm gonna fade that picture in right now. And what you're looking at right now is 55 images that I stacked on top of each other in Photoshop. I used that to merge all of the layers and blend them together, and then I had to do some post to do a little bit of patchwork after that. But the end result is what you're looking at right now. And that's one of the coolest things about the RP, which I think, I'm not 100% on this, but I'm pretty sure that the EOS R does not have that built into it. Now, because I like macro photography so much, that's a huge advantage that the RP has over the EOS R. So what I'm gonna do right now for this video is I'm just gonna take these two cameras. Right now I've got the 11 to 22mm on my M50, and I've got the 35mm. I'm not gonna shoot wide open. I'm gonna set these parameters to exactly the same, and I'm gonna shoot with some different ISOs with them, and I'm just gonna throw them up here while I'm talking right now so that you guys can see the real differences that you can expect from the sensors. I just want to throw out there that I'm shooting in my room, which is like the worst lighting scenario ever for photography. Right now I've got a bunch of lights on me, so it doesn't look that bad, but when I shoot my cat, I'm going to turn those lights off. I'm going to shoot what it looks like in here, which sucks. So you'll really see the M50 getting pushed to really high ISOs. You're going to definitely, I'm not going to noise reduce anything that you're seeing right now. These are just going to be straight out of the camera pictures. That way you can really see what to expect before post. Trying to think of anything else that you guys are going to want to know before you go and purchase one, but all I can say to you is that with my honest opinion, with this being $600, not with this lens, but with the 15 to 45 kit, and you getting this body without this lens at all, but you can get this body with the adapter for $9.99 on Amazon versus the $600 with this kit lens. I would say save up the few more $100, spend the $9.99. Like I said, I even think I saw a sale for $8.99 on Amazon the other day. And go for the full frame. I know that it's lacking a couple of things. Like, one of the other things I was concerned about was it not having 120 frames a second, and then I ended up shooting 1080p segments at 60 frames a second and slowing that down, and that served as my slow motion versus what I was doing with my M50, which was shooting in 720p with no dual pixel autofocus to get my 120 frames a second. And what I noticed was actually shooting at 1080p at 60 is probably more ideal than shooting at 720p at 120 frames a second, and that's just because the resolution just is noticeable. You can pull stuff off, you can make it look good. I'm not saying you can't. I mean, look at the Crowley crew. I mean, he does awesome things, and he's in love with the slow motion of the M50, and his stuff always looks clear somehow. But all I'm saying is if you start stretching that out to 1080p, or when I do drone videos and I'm shooting in 4K, and sometimes I'll even output my video in 4K, good luck stretching something in 720p out into 4K. Because you're just basically slowing down a mud puddle of blurriness at that point. Alright guys, and that's going to wrap up the video for today. In conclusion, my basic advice is if you can only afford one of these, pick up the RP. You're going to love it. It's really an awesome camera for the money that you're going to shell out. Have a great day. Again, if this helped you, please go down below, subscribe, click the notification bell, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.